What's up, everybody? Thank you guys all for coming by this afternoon. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the title's a lie, and I didn't intend it to be, but we're going to be taking a look at my top apps and websites. And the reason that I say that it's a lie is because we're going to have more than five. So we're going to do five websites. I think we got about 3 apps and then one kind of all-inclusive app website that I'm going to recommend to help make your day-to-day better and more Christ-focused. And they might not all be what you expect them to be. So if you're new here, my name is Steve. Thank you so much for coming by. While you're here, you're going to be encouraged and equipped to be the Christian you claim to be. We're going to do that by going through scripture and reviewing solid tools and resources to help make your day-to-day better and more Christ-focused. If that sounds like something that interests you or would help you out, hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. So let me know that you guys can hear me and see me as we get started here. So I'm not recording for 20 minutes and you can't hear or see anything. Again, my name is Steve. Thank you guys so much for being here. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my top kind of apps and websites. So it was originally supposed to be 5 and I just couldn't keep it to 5. So I didn't lie on purpose. I really apologize and I repent. But we're going to give you a bunch of extras, more than just a little bit of 5, but they'll go quick because I really do use these apps and websites on a regular basis. They help me out a whole lot. And they're tools and resources that I use to study scripture, to share scripture, and to be the Christian who I claim to be. So let's get into it. Number one, we're going to go through apps first. I'm going to give you 3 apps that I have on my phone that I use on a regular basis. And I'm going to put a caveat to this one. So this is YouVersion. This is what the app looks like. YouVersion has been around quite a while, and it's an app that lives on my phone. Now, I use quite a few different digital Bible apps, and the reason that I do that is so I can kind of stay up with the technology as best as I can, so I can make recommendations to you guys. This one I have found to be the best all-around Bible that I have. Now, before I tell you why I like it and why I keep it on my phone, other than the fact that it's a Bible, I do want to put a little asterisk by this and say that I highly and strongly encourage you to have a paper Bible that you use regularly, a physical, actual Bible that you carry around and read and use. A main source of text. And maybe we'll do a video about why. One of the first videos I ever did, way down on the list down there, I make the case for about 15 or 20 minutes on why you should have an actual Bible. That being said, I've been saying that a lot this week. This is most people, at least the people that I talk to in the countries that have mentioned, have a phone in their pocket, and you can have YouVersion, and you can have not only one translation of the Bible, but you can have many translations of the Bible with you everywhere you go all the time. So let me just plug YouVersion, because again, I've used a lot of them, and there's Blue Letter Bible, and that's a great one too. I think Olive Tree is another. There's a lot of great, even if you buy an ESV or a Crossway Bible, you get the ESV Bible as an app for free. They're all great if those are the translations you want to use. But YouVersion has a couple of features that I find myself using all the time. Number one is they seem to have the biggest, broadest amount of translations. And I appreciate that. So even if you're not using it as your day-to-day Bible, again, have a paper Bible. Bring your paper Bible with you to church. But if you're reading and studying out of your paper Bible and you want to look this up in the King James Version or the ESV and you're reading New King James, you can do that really simply in YouVersion. Number 2, a lot of these translations will read you the Bible. So it's like an audio version of the Bible. And I love that. I love that feature. I use it every year, at least once a year, because I read the Bible in January and I don't read anything else until I finish it. It takes me about 2 weeks. Just to kind of power through and get the whole thing all done in once. And the last 2 or 3 years, I've been listening and reading at the same time. And that really helps me focus. It helps me listen. And YouVersion will read it to you. And again, a lot of these different translations. And the voice isn't that bad. Sometimes if you buy an audio Bible, it's kind of hard to navigate through. Meaning, like, if you want to go to Job chapter 27, you might not be able to just click on Job chapter 27 and it'll read it to you. Well, you can do that in YouVersion. So that's the first app that I want to mention. It's always handy to have a Bible. You can take notes. You can make little, I guess what I would say, memes out of verses, and it makes it really easy to do that. There actually is a kind of a social network in YouVersion that you can post, what you're reading, or and interact with friends maybe that you've connected with. So these are all fantastic reasons to use YouVersion. I want to make it clear I'm not paid by them at all. I just think it's a really great app that Christians should have on their phone, on their iPad to use. They also have like read through. I just got asked this, and if you're watching this, I'm so sorry that I haven't gotten back to you. I got asked about Bible reading plans. You know what? This app has Bible reading plans. So even if you aren't going to read, you can use the app to show you want to read the Bible through in 40 days or in a year. The app has plans and devotional plans and stuff that you can use. So stick that on your phone. It doesn't take up very much space. Let's get into the next one. Like I told you, these aren't going to be typical, just straight up hardcore reformed apps. These are apps that make my day-to-day better and more Christ focused. And one of the things that I like to try to do in my life is use social media and use the apps that are being put out there for everybody and use them to God's glory. That's one of the reasons that I have a YouTube channel, because because social media doesn't have to be all bad. We can use it to grow and to gain knowledge and to have great conversations. I've developed a lot of really good friendships through this channel with you guys. And Audible is one of these. It's not social media, but it's one of those apps that if you use it the right way, I think that it can be really beneficial. So I stumbled into Audible maybe a year or so ago. I was real hesitant, but I started listening to audiobooks. They gave me my first one for free, I think, and I was hooked because I have found that I get a lot out of listening and reading at the same time. So you can buy an Audible book, and let's say it says it's unabridged, right? You want the unabridged version. If it's an 8-hour book, you can listen to it most of the time. You can listen to it at like twice the speed. You can get through a whole book in 4 hours, especially these books that you're not really tearing into and making tons and tons of notes. And that you want to listen, you want to get the information, but it's not something that you have to sit and study per se. Audible's great for this. Not only that, but for those of us that have busy lives, we commute, we're busy with the kids, we're busy going here and there and everywhere. A lot of times you can stick your headphones in, or as you're even cooking, Audible with your little Alexa dot it'll read to you while you cook and while you listen and while you fold the laundry, and you can increase the amount of books that you're taking in greatly, in my opinion. So here's the quick rundown for Audible. It is a pay service. It's like $15 a month. You get 1 credit. 1 credit is essentially worth 1 book. You can store up credits and books and whatnot, but that's the basic way that it works. And again, I use this all the time. I'm always sad when the book that I'm reading or the book that's coming up next doesn't have an audio version, just because it does me so much good to listen and to read at the same time. So Audible is number 2. Number 1 was YouVersion. Number 2 is Audible. By the way, as we get going here, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. And if you can, just write question in big bold letters, at the beginning, so I can see that it's a question. I'll do my best to try to answer those. All right. So the number 3 app that I have that I use regularly, of course I have other apps like my bank, but that, doesn't, that's not what's keeping me Christ focused and encouraged. So the number 3 app that I use on a regular basis is Podcast. Now, if you didn't see the video, go back to last week's live stream. It's still posted, but last week we talked about my top podcasts, and I really get a lot out of podcasts. I think that I have a couple on there that I listen to that are only 2 to 3 minutes. long. I have a couple that are 30 minutes long. And then I mentioned a couple that are like full hours. You can get a lot of great solid teaching and education through quality podcasts if you're listening to the right ones. So I think this is, whether or not it's Apple, I think this is the Apple podcast logo. Whether it's an Apple podcast or or on your Android, however you listen to podcasts, I really think this is beneficial to you. Find a couple of the good ones. Again, I have some recommended from last Monday's video, and you can start there and get a lot of good, again, drive time. If you're spending time in the car, or you're spending time working out in the garage, or whatever the case may be, you can be listening to a podcast and growing in knowledge and really growing in your relationship with the Lord if you're listening to the right ones. So if you're just joining us, we're going over the top websites and apps that I personally use, but that I would recommend to help keep your day-to-day better and more Christ focused. These apps do that for me because I see the podcast in the car and I click on it and I listen to a podcast. Or I see YouVersion and it reminds me to read my Bible, even if I'm not using that, using that particular app. It reminds me to do that. So let's get into some of the websites here, and they all have similarities and differences, and so there's reasons why I use this. And you guys have heard me talk about this group before. There's a lot of apologetics websites that I could rattle off, and they're all really good. I'm not gonna lie. But I thought to myself when I started this, it was supposed to be top 5, right? And that increased in size. But I talked about Stand to Reason a lot. So str.org is a fantastic website and resource for you to have. Bookmark it and go to it often. You can type in questions. str.org posts blog posts, and you can also find all of their YouTube channel stuff and their podcast stuff. So that's all wrapped up into this one website, and there's a number of speakers who are contributing. So you're not getting all articles just from Greg Koukl, Alan Schleman, Tim Barnett, Amy Hall, John Noyes. These are all top names in Christian apologetics. They're on the front lines and doing their best and doing their duty to help train us Christians to fight the battles and have the arguments in a winsome, loving Christian way. And you can glean a lot of solid information from str.org. If you're looking and you got asked a hard question you don't have the answer to, go there and start there. It's a great place to start. You can even call in on one of their podcasts and talk to Greg about that. So str.org, highly recommended. Next, this one is another one of these that gets used often by me. This is Ligonier Ministries. This is Reformed theology, true, accurate biblical information that you're going to get from this website. They have tons and tons of stuff on this. And from Ligonier, I think it's ligonier.org. I'll post links a little bit later down of all the links that I can that are actual websites. So Ligonier has, again, it's going to have articles and blog posts. It's going to have they have a store, like a book, because they get contributed by all the Ligonier pastors and theologians that are a part of Ligonier Ministries, which was started by R.C. Sproul. They all contribute information and contribute articles, and they have their books like listed that you can purchase in their bookstore. They're often having great sales. And so this is a fantastic resource that, again, if you have a question about how to understand something in Scripture, this is one of those websites you want to have bookmarked and you want to be able to go to and get to regularly. So ligonier.org. All right, the next one, what do you know? This guy's telling me to watch more YouTube. How is that supposed to keep me Christ focused? Well, you're here now, first of all, right? And I hope that you're getting benefit. As a matter of fact, if you're enjoying this video and you're getting benefit out of it, hit that thumbs up. So again, I like to use social media to God's glory. Yes, that's hard to do, and you have to be disciplined about it. but it's very, very doable. And some of the best information and study times that I've had have come from quality YouTube channels. Maybe I'll do top 5, top 10 Christian YouTube channels out there. But there's a lot of good, solid, quality information out there, and quality studying you can be doing on YouTube. You can play it on your TV. You can watch videos from Ligonier that, like I just mentioned, from Ligonier Ministries, from John MacArthur, from Stand to Reason, from myself, from other Bible reviewers that do similar things that I do from a different perspective. Got Questions, that's going to come up in just a minute. I'm giving away my hand a little bit. But from gotquestions.org, there's a lot of good information that you can get, or at the very least that can help you study information and topics that are out there. Just don't forget to be watching and viewing the right YouTube channels. Don't get sidetracked. Don't start believing everything you see. I highly encourage you to get good quality recommendations on YouTube channels. Mike Winger is another one off the top of my head that are putting out solid content. Mike Winger's got, I think, almost 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's doing amazing things with teaching the Bible right on YouTube, right for the whole world to see. So this really isn't a bad website/app to have at your disposal. I just mentioned this one. I use this a lot. I don't always agree with all of their theology, but that's okay. For the most part, these guys put out really solid information. There's nothing that I can even think of that's like, oh, that's heretical. That's not what I'm saying. There's always just little tweaks on how you understand certain things. But gotquestions.org is a great place to start. If you heard a term and you don't know what that term means, go type it into Got Questions, and chances are you're going to get a couple of paragraphs that are going to give you at least a good start on how to understand that. A term, a thought, a Bible verse, a Bible passage, a contradiction. The folks over at Got Questions have a huge library of posts, of essentially blog style posts that essentially is just that. Here's the question, here's a paragraph or two, answer. And a lot of times it'll have additional resources to help you get to other websites or to research what you're looking at a little bit more, which is why I like them so much. Even if I don't always 100% agree with the way they interpret a verse or a passage, a lot of times I'm using this as a definition. What does the word Trinity mean? What does the word justification mean? How are we to understand justification? And they're going to lay out a description for you that's going to help maybe push you off in the right direction and point you back to scripture, and maybe give you a couple of more things to study. So that's a highly recommended website, in my opinion. I use Got Questions all the time, and I trust the things that they're saying, and I trust the definitions that they give, or otherwise I wouldn't be recommending it. All right, this one's going to be funny, and you are going to be like, what the heck? All right, so here's why I have IMDb listed. I use IMDb all the time. And here's why. Not only do I take in entertainment from time to time, television and movies, but I also have 3 children that do this as well. And here's why I have IMDb listed as a website and or app that you might want to consider looking at more often than maybe you do. Because they have a section for, I have yet to come across the TV show or a movie that's not in there. They have a section called parental guidance. I think that's it. It's way down. But if you scroll down, if you type in the movie that you're going to watch or you're thinking about watching, you scroll down to this little section that's for parents. I mean, it's aimed at parents. I use it for myself with the entertainment that I'm taking in. And it has categories within that parental section, such as nudity. What types of nudity are in this video, if any? Language, foul language. Some of these are crazy. They'll list out like the exact amount of F words, say, that you're going to encounter And so if it's a show that might be, your kid asked you about and you haven't seen it yet, you can go to this section and it's going to give you a good idea of the content of that movie or that TV show. And so again, it might seem kind of funny, but I use this all the time for just that reason, because if it's a show I'm not familiar with and I don't know if I want my kids watching, or I don't know if I should be watching it myself, because what we take in is what we put out, right? And we should be focused on Christ and doing our best to focus on what's good and what's right and what's pure. And guess what, folks? I hope I'm not the first guy to tell you this, but most of the stuff on TV these days is total garbage. It just, if would, I hate to be this guy, but would you sit there watching it with Christ? Would you feel good about that? A lot of these shows, and I'm going to blow the roof off. Because we all know, but Game of Thrones is one. It used to make me cringe when at church people would be talking about Game of Thrones. What the heck are you doing watching Game of Thrones if you're claiming to be a Christian? It just is inappropriate. There's nothing about it that is what Christ would have you focused on or thinking about. So you can hate me and unfollow me for saying that if you want, because that was one of the biggest shows on TV. But guess what? We need to be considering what we're taking in, what we're viewing, what we're thinking about, and what ideas our children are being presented with. Is the background of this story have to do with how disobedient the kid is and how they never listen to their parents? Is that something that they need to be watching? Is half the story, and I'm going to give you this one. I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I listed this, and I'm going to tell you, my daughter started watching, she's 10, she started watching Supergirl, and for the first season, it's a couple seasons old now, for the first season it was really good. It was just about Supergirl figuring out she was Supergirl and starting to help people out. And then like right around the first week or two of season 2, there was like a background story about her sister, and her sister essentially was like figuring out that she was a lesbian, and they went down that whole kind of rabbit hole with her sister of deciding, and it just is not something I want my kid watching. And she even knew. She was like, she looked at me and she was all sad and she said, "We can't watch this anymore, can we?" And I said, "No." Because yes, it's out there in the world. Yes, we need to be aware and knowledgeable about the LGBT agenda. We need to be very loving with those people. But you know what? My daughter doesn't need to be watching it on TV. And in reality, when a storyline becomes about that, it's not something that I really care to take in. And this website, as funny as it may sound, if you've never been there, can help you navigate through some of those questions. All right, we're coming to the end here. Thank you guys for hanging in. It's been about 23 minutes, and I saved this one for last because chances are, if you want it, it'll become a whole nother video on its own. G Suite. So there's some of you that might hate on me for this, and that's okay, because it's one of those Mac or PC type of a deals, love it or hate it. So this one gets an asterisk. It's an honorable mention, but I use G Suite so much that I couldn't not list it. And how in the world do you use that to be encouraged and equipped as a Christian to make your day-to-day better and more Christ-focused? Let me tell you, I have tons and tons of tools in G Suite that help me do just that. So the main parts of G Suite, they're not all listed here that I use, which G Suite is just Google. It's Google Apps. You can sign up for a Google email address for free. It's harder and harder to find the actual handle you want because there's so many of them out there. But it's free, and you even in Google Drive get, I think, 5 gigabytes worth of storage, which if you're just storing files isn't that bad. I pay, I think, $1.99 a month, which is nothing, for 200 gigs. I do that because I keep a whole lot of files digitally online. So my Google Drive is broken down into folders. I have an entire note-taking system on the Bible. So I have the whole Bible cut and pasted into different documents and different areas and folders of Google Drive. When I take notes on the Bible, I take them right there. I can access them from my phone or from anybody's computer in the world. I can get to that information. So I use Google Drive a lot. I can share information. If I'm working on a Bible study with somebody else, we can set up a document and we can both comment on that document, and it's really super easy. You can dump videos and photos and maps and websites, everything you can dump into Google Drive, and it's available on all your devices. I do most of my typing, of course, on the computer, but man, is it a note-taking machine. That being said, there's another one called Google Keep. I use Google Keep a ton, and essentially what it is it's like the sticky note app for your phone. Um, it just keeps little notes. I use it all the time. There's a website you want to remember. You can just click on it and send it to Google Keep, and it creates a little note for you. You have a bunch of bullet points you want to remember. Jot them down in Google Keep. You can move them back and forth from Google Keep to Google Drive to a Google Doc. And again, these things help me take notes. They help remember what I'm hearing and what I'm listening to and what I'm reading. When I get recommendations, prayer requests, you can keep all this stuff digitally in your phone and have it with you everywhere. And then again, you can drop links right into your notes and right into your Google Keep app, and then click on them or send them to other people that ask them. I think that it's a terrific resource to use in your Christian day-to-day life. Google and again, Google Chrome, you don't have to be a Chrome lover. Most, if I don't know what you use, if you don't use Chrome, I guess Firefox is still probably out there, and then Safari. Okay, but I have my Google Chrome because it can be the same on if you just log in, right, with your login credentials, all your bookmarks are saved. So I have folders set up as bookmarks, and within those folders, say, for example, would be apologetics, and then I have a bunch of all the high quality apologetics links that I come across. I dump into that folder. Very easily accessible, very easy to remember. It just stays organized. And you're doing a research on the term justification, dump all the links that you're doing research on into a folder called justification in your bookmarks. And then it's available everywhere on your phone, on your computer. You can use it as you take notes. So that's why I mentioned G Suite as kind of the last one, is because I really truly believe that it is a fantastic resource. If you do things digitally at all, it can really improve your study. It can really improve your ability to keep your notes and to use them and to have the information to pass on. And it's available, and it'll be available on all your devices. So that's it. I know it said 5. That was more than 5. Thank you guys so much for hanging in there with me. These are resources, websites and apps that I use all the time. And I thought that I put them down in this live stream because I think that you can benefit from them too. I really, truly do. So if you have any questions about those, if you're interested in seeing how I use Google to study and to keep all my notes organized, let me know in the comments. And maybe we'll do a video on that sometime later if I can figure out how to do the fancy, like show you guys my computer thing. That might be kind of a fun thing to do. If you have any questions on any of the apps or resources that I've mentioned, again, leave it down in the comments, and I'm going to pass the question off to you. What apps and websites do you use to keep your day better and more Christ focused? I want to hear from you, because maybe there's a website I need to know about that I don't. So leave it down there and we can all share. Hey, I want to ask you guys, for those of you who have been here hanging out with me, even if you're watching this after the fact, what type of topics would you like covered on these live streams? Have you continued to enjoy the live streams? Are you getting value out of them? If so, what would you like to hear about? What would you like to talk about? I would love to do like a whole question and answer one. I just have to have the questions. So if you have questions, email them in. My email address is down there in the description, kind of thing. But I want to be here for you. I want to help continue to encourage and equip you. The last couple of these live streams that I've done were suggestions that were given to me by one of you guys, and I really appreciate it. And they've been really well received. Because this is information that we can all use. Make sure, if you're not subscribed already, that at the very least you're keeping your eye out. We have some great upcoming videos. We have the ESV Hebrew and Greek Keyword Study Bible. Should be coming out on Thursday. Again, I also want to mention, sorry about the video last Thursday. I had a really kind of busy week. I'm not making excuses. I had the opportunity to take my daughter and just spend some one-on-one time with her, and so the video just kind of didn't make it, and I apologize, but it'll be out there. So, but upcoming this week, we have the ESV Greek and Hebrew Keyword Study Bible. We also have, and I have some really pretty, really nice premium Bibles on the way. So I have the ESV Preacher's Bible coming out. It's a goatskin Bible. It's beautiful. I also think that this one is on the way to me. I just hear the heirloom edition, ESV heirloom edition, Horween leather Bible. These are pretty Bibles that you're going to want to know about. So keep your eye out for those reviews. And next week's live stream, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, is going to be my top pastors and speakers. Who do I listen to stay focused and more Christ focused? And who have I been listening to in the last handful of years to really increase my knowledge base and help me in my study? So we're going to be talking about that on next week's live stream. I also want to ask you another question. There's been a lot of questions today, so if you're still hanging in there with me, awesome. Are you guys interested in hearing and talking about the Apocrypha? I've been holding on to this book for quite a while, not knowing whether that's something you all would be interested in me letting you know what it is and how maybe you would use it and why it is and is not important. Is that something you guys are interested in? Let me know. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me today. I really appreciate it. It's been super fun. I hope you've gotten value, and I hope I've earned the privilege of your time. So there may be a couple of videos here at the end if you're watching this. If you're watching this after the live stream, a couple of videos that you're interested in. And of course, don't forget, be who you claim to be.